anniversary of Rabbi Rosenfeld passing.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, anybody who's zuchet to see him and to listen to him and to hear him knows that there was always a moment when he got you. Something that he said, some chidush that he said, touched something inside you, and that was the moment that you knew that what he was saying was true. This is where I wanted to be. This is where I'm parking my car, and I'm here. So I just wanted to share you, because we're on Parashat Vayishlach, and I went to, when I started thinking back about what touched me, and I've known Rabbi Rosenfeld since I was 15, which puts it somewhere in the end of 1967.
Wow.
So I'm dating myself a little bit. And I remember three things that he said, but I only wanted to talk about one of them. I'll mention the three. And these things got me because in the community at the time, the community was going through a transformation. The 60s, anybody that was growing up in the 60s, anybody that knew the community in the 60s, Shabbat was, you went to shul and you played stickball. And you rode your bike and if you had to, you parked the car a block away from the shul and then you prayed Shaharit and Musaf and got in the car and you drove to Manhattan and you did your work. You opened the store and nobody, the rabbi said just don't park in front of the shul. So there was a lot of scary stuff that was going on. And you couldn't really, there was really nobody talking about Torah, giving it over in a way where it grabbed anybody. And all of a sudden, you'd look on Motzei Shabbat in the shul, and there's one person who's in the back of the shul, and if anybody can remember, picture in their mind how Shari Tzion is laid out, so you'll know that there's an entrance closer to Ocean Parkway, and that entrance closer to Ocean Parkway was the entrance that I used to walk in from. And my seat was when you first opened the door on the left-hand side along the wall. I used to sit right there. Okay? On Friday nights, on Motzei Shabbat rather, they used to have classes in the winter especially, after Arbit. And Rabbi Rosenfeld used to come in and he used to pray Arbit with the minyan. Mm-hmm. So all of a sudden you saw somebody walking in with a hat. Now that was unheard of. Nobody even knew what a hat was in those days. And he had a hat on. He had a black suit with a white shirt and a tie. And he stood and he prayed with concentration where just by looking at him you thought he was in another world. He wasn't there. What's going on? Guys were wearing chains and they were yelling and they were talking. What are we going to do after the shul? Where's the game going to be tonight? What bar are we going to go to? What movie are we going to go see? And these were being discussed in the shul. I mean, it got so bad that the rabbi used to have to bang on the teva so many times just so to get the people quiet. And here was a rabbi who was oblivious to everything. And I would watch him. I'd look at him, and I'd wonder who is this? So a couple of months later, I happened to meet David Assoulin, and he happened to tell me that this happens to be my rabbi. And you have to come to his classes because he says things that you'll never hear anywhere else.
You weren't from the earlier ones? I'm saying until you met David, you didn't go to the classes?
No.
Oh, wow.
So I went to the class, and he started talking about an egg. What makes an egg kosher? So it's very simple. An egg has two requirements to be kosher. One side has to be round, and one side has to be sharper than the other. It's called in Hebrew kad, and kad means round, and had means sharp. So the Bina Tanzel, and the rabbi explained based on the Kutei Halachot, that Kad is numerically 24. What makes an egg, if you notice that whenever a person is sitting shirah for somebody, they give him eggs to eat. Why do they give him eggs to eat? Because the eggs are round. To symbolize that the world is round. That a person exists in this world and he goes through a cycle, a life cycle that's round. He starts as a baby, he gets stronger and stronger, and then he starts to wane and wane and wane until he passes away. And it's a cycle, and it happens to everybody. There's nobody that beats the cycle. What makes a person a kosher person? If a person has emunah in the 24 books of the Torah, and in the Gemara that has 6 divisions of the Babylonian Talmud, 6 divisions of the Yerushalmi Talmud, that is 12. Those are the 24 and the 12 of the egg that make a person kosher.
What was the 24 we got? Was it Tanakh?
Tanakh.
And the 12?
The 12 are the Babylonian Talmud and the Jerusalem Talmud, right? But Talmud Bavli, Talmud Yerushalmi, each have 6 sidarim.
Oh, 6 is there, right, okay.
And then the rabbi started on something else. He started talking about how, believe it or not, Yom Kippur, as great as Yom Kippur is, it may not be the greatest day of the year. He said, if you look at the word Yom Kippur, it said in Hebrew, the word kaf in front of a word means like. So Yom Kippurim would mean a day like Purim. Now you look at Purim, you go to work, you drink, you have a good time, you can do business, you can spend money, you can do whatever you want to do on Purim. And you're telling me that Yom Kippur is only a day like Purim? And the rabbi went into that, and he explained how that's possible. That was the point number 2 that got me. And the third item happens to be in this week's parasha. The Gemara in Sotah, on Daf Hey, Amud Aleph, explains what is the worst possible trait that a person could have. The worst possible trait. You could tell me that a person is a murderer, you could tell me a person is jealous, you could tell me that a person is a swindler, whatever you want to tell me. The Gemara says the worst possible trait a person could have is somebody that has ga'ava. Somebody that has haughtiness. Hashem Yisbarach says, Hashem malach geut lavesh, the cloak of haughtiness only belongs to Hashem. So if you have haughtiness, you're taking away my garment, which means you and I can't exist together in this world. That's what the Gemara says about somebody that's haughty. And the Gemara goes on for about a page and a half, talking about how despicable a trait haughtiness is. Finally, at the end of the Gemara, there's one rabbi, Rabbi Hiya, who says that a Talmid Chacham is allowed to have an eighth of a degree of haughtiness. What does that mean, an eighth of an eighth? It's a very cryptic sentence. Either tell me black on white, this is what I can do, this is what I can't do. What does an eighth of an eighth mean? An eighth of an eighth also is problematic because, if I have 64 cents, an eighth of 64 cents is 1 penny. If I have an eighth of an eighth of $64, then an eighth of an eighth is $1. If I have an eighth of $640, it's $10.
Yeah, I got
so
that.
You need to know what X is. You need X.
We don't know what does the Gemara mean when it means an eighth of an eighth. So the rabbi proceeded to give 8 explanations on what that means. And the explanations range from the easy to the very complex. So I'm only going to say some of the easy ones. The first one he said, what's the longest perek in Tanakh? Anybody know?
Tanakh?
The longest perek in Tanakh.
It's Tehillim, the
Right. Very good. Perek Kuf Yotet, perek 119 in Tehillim is the longest perek in Tanakh. What's its claim to fame? It has 8 pesukim for every one of the 22 letters. So the rabbi, the first explanation he said was, look at this chapter, the 8th pasuk of the 8th letter. The letter is Het. The 8th pasuk of the 8th letter starts off with the word Hastecha Hashem Malei Haaretz. We have to realize that everything that happens is all the kindness of Hashem. It's nothing that we do. We're nothing. It's all Hashem's kindness that brings about everything. So that's the first step. That's what the Gemara is hinting to when it says an eighth of an eighth. Second thing that he said, an eighth of an eighth. What's the eighth parasha in the Chumash? Vayishlach. The eighth pasuk, how does it start? With the word katonti. Katonti means I'm small, I'm humble, because Hashem did with me so much greatness. That's an eighth of an eighth. A person should always have that in his mind, that no matter what Hashem bestowed upon him, he has to retain that quality of humility. Who's saying that statement? The greatest one of our forefathers, Yaakov Avinu. So if he said it about himself, how much more do we have to say it about ourselves? The third one was, we just had a siyum on Shas. If a person's asked, how many Gemalot are in Shas? What's the answer?
You would have to know what a Gemalot is.
The Gemara. How many Gemalot? How many tractates are there in Shas? So the normal answer would be, so let me explain. There are 36 that have,
Like another 4.
there are 36, and the count goes up to 63, if you take all the Mishnayot that are there. But when you figure in the small tractates, Masechtot Ketanot, they're called the small tractates. We have like Kala, no, like Kala, Semachot Kala, and Sufrim, and these. So that becomes, Shas has 64 components. An eighth of an eighth is numerically 164. How much is a Talmid Chacham allowed by halakha to say that he knows?
164.
He's only allowed to say that he knows one masechet. What is that masechet? The masechet that he's learning at that moment. So that is another statement of humility. I'll just say one more. Just say one more. When Hashem came to give the Torah, the Midrash tells us that every one of the mountains wanted to be that mountain that Hashem Baruch would give the Torah on. So Hashem Baruch said, the Torah has to be given in this region, the region of the Middle East. So what's the highest mountain in the Middle East? The Gemara says that it's Har Tavor. Now, how high is Har Tavor? The Gemara in Bava Batra tells us, the fine Gimel, that Har Tavor is 4 parsa. Now, what's a parsa? In English, a parsang. A parsang is made up of 4 milim.
4 meals.
Right. How much is a meal? A meal is 2,000 amot. So now, let's do the math. We have,
6,000 feet.
what?
6,000 feet.
Slow down. So, 32,000. You got it. Okay. Now, which mountain was the one that Hashem Baruch gave the Torah on? Har Sinai. How big is Har Sinai?
600
500 amot.
164.
Slow down.
600 amot. 600 amot. 600 amot.
It's just testing
600
everybody.
amot is exactly 1/64 of Har Tavor.
Nice.
So Har Sinai was chosen for his humility.
How many feet was Har
All right,
Tavor?
32,500.
How many feet was Har Tavor?
Har Tavor was 500 amot.
That's crazy.
500 amot. So 500 relation to 60 to 32,000 is the 1/64 ratio.
But it's 3 feet in Amar, right?
No, 18 to 24 inches.
See, this is math is in the Torah. See? This is Torah, it's all math.
So let's leave it at that. And the point point that I'm really trying to make is that the well springs of his knowledge were basically limitless. They were vast, they were all-encompassing, they were encyclopedic, they were on the spot. You never asked him a question, he said, I'll get back to you. You never asked him a question where he said, let me ask one of my colleagues. You never asked him a question and he said, let me look it up. He was always on the spot with the answer, and not only would he give you the answer, he'd give you the breakdown. This is what the Sfaradim say, this is what the Ashkenazim say, this is what you should do. Oh, that was his way. And he had a way about him where he spoke to the person. He spoke to you. He knew how to read you, he knew how to talk to you, and he dealt with everybody on their own level. It was an unbelievable thing because he could relate to everybody. To the businessman on Fifth Avenue who didn't know a word of anything, to the biggest rabbi in Yerushalayim that used to stand in line waiting for him to give the answer to questions that they posed. I mean, anybody who was in Yerushalayim in the summertime would see a sight that was amazing. You'd see, here he was, he used to walk around in a short sleeve blue shirt. And he did not wear a jacket in the summer in Yerushalayim because it was so hot. And here you have the Yerushalmi rabbis with the beards and the peot, and he was without a beard at that time. He would walk into the Breslov Yeshiva, and they would line up. I have a question that I've been bothered for 3 months. I'm waiting for you to come. What's the answer? And he'd just like flick it off. It would just come out so easily. And you couldn't, they were amazed, and we who watched it were even more amazed. But we began to get used to it, because we knew what we had. We knew the treasure that we had. And he did something that nobody did. He revolutionized the way Torah was studied. He taped his classes. Nobody taped classes in those days. It was unheard of. His tapes, he made his tapes, he gave his classes, there were maybe 30 to 50 people there at the class. Now, there are hundreds, maybe thousands of people that listen every single day to shiurim. The same shiurim that he gave, he passed away in 1978, the end of 78. So for 39 years, there have been no new shiurim given. Yet these shiurim have been recycled thousands of times, and people are still getting a charge out of them. Who's telling me now, when they walked in, how much information is packed in each tape? How much? If you sat down, you took a piece of paper, and he says it in a way where it's so easily understandable. He puts it in front of you like a table that's laid out. Here it is. This is what the Gemara says, this is what it means, and this is what we take from it. So what I could tell, the best advice or the best suggestion I can make to all of you who did not know him is, if you want to get a glimpse of the man, plug into some of his tapes. Plug into some of them. On the way to the city, just put a cassette into the car. Put a CD. Well, how about 1 minute? Take the USB. Take the USB.
It's online.
Or online.
You stream it, that's it.
You stream it. Okay.
Yeah.
You stream it. You stream it.
Has it on his.
Stream it from the website.
You stream it, and you listen to it, and you'll be amazed. And you'll get a glimpse of the man, of the rabbi.
How many on there?
I heard
How many on there?
672.
Oh.
672. Must have posted one of his shiurim.
So Bezat Hashem, Zechuto Yagen Alenu, and we should be glad that his marriage should bless all of us and protect all of us, and we should be zochet to all the berachot and everything good, Bezat Hashem.
Amen.
Amen.
Rak Baruch.
Rak Baruch.